So can you build muscle at home with just one kettlebell? And yeah, obviously you can. The rules of hypertrophy don't change based on the tool. The muscle doesn't know what tool you're using. You know, it doesn't know if you're using a barbell, a kettlebell, a dumbbell, or bands or whatever. It just knows, all the muscle knows is the stimulus that is placed upon the muscle. So when people say that you can't build muscle with kettlebells, they're absolutely wrong. Now, do not get me wrong here. There are definitely better tools to do with if your goal is just purely to focus on the aesthetics, building as much muscle as possible. There are probably going to be better tools, but if you don't want to go to a gym and you don't want to use those tools or whatever, and you want to train at home, then a kettlebell is going to be a hell of a good choice. You know, it's an all-rounder tool and you can definitely build muscle mass with it. Like I said, the rules of hypertrophy don't change. The muscle doesn't know, but there are a few key principles that you're going to have to take into account when you are training with kettlebells at home. And by far, the most important principle that you're going to need to take into account when you are training is that you've got to take the muscle to failure. Like, we can do like conditioning circuits, and we can do, you know, Tabata, and we could do every minute on the minutes and stuff like that, which is great. You are gonna do something there. You are gonna create some sort of stimulus. But if you're really wanting to get the most from it, then you need to be taking the muscle close to failure. So like if you're doing shoulder presses with a kettlebell, and you're sort of like getting to the last three where you just think, I'm gonna drop this kettlebell. You know, you've got maybe 2 reps left in that tank that you could probably push out. Then you are taking that movement, that muscle group, very close to failure, which is what you want to be aiming for. Same principle if you're doing squats. You want to be taking them very close to failure, where you feel like you've maybe got 1 to 2 reps left in that tank. The next most important principle that you're going to have to focus on is progressive overload. At some point, you're going to have to make it a little bit harder. Now, there are multiple ways that you could do this. You can add more weight, keep the reps the same. You could do more reps. You could do more sets. You could go a little bit faster. You could go slower, more time under tension. You know, there are multiple ways that you can add progressive overload to add another layer of stimulation and intensity to your workouts. So that is the second most important thing. At some point, you're going to have to add more weight, more reps. You're going to have to do something a little bit more for the muscle to learn and adapt to. And the last key thing that you're going to have to really focus on is that you're going to have to be eating a sufficient amount of protein. You're going to have to be eating at least 1 gram per pound of your body weight every single day. But ideally, even more than that. You need to be eating a sufficient amount of protein to support that growth. If you're in a calorie deficit, then you need to be eating more protein. That is very important. You need to be eating more protein if you're in a calorie deficit, so please do try and aim for that. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. If you're not like an elite level bodybuilding athlete who's trying to enter competitions and you're just training at home and you want to try and build some more muscle mass, then these are the very basic principles that you're going to need to follow. You're going to have to train close to failure. Then you're going to have to add some progressive overload when that movement gets too easy by adding what we've said previously. And then you're going to have to eat enough protein and food to facilitate that growth and repair, and then keep repeating that process. That is the very basics of what you guys need to do. So yeah, you can absolutely build muscle at home with just one kettlebell or a variety of kettlebells or whatever. Yes, it might be easier with some different tools or different things to use, but hell, it's easier if you take testosterone. So there you go. So yeah, they're the basic principles, guys. Stick to them and you won't go far wrong.